Hi, welcome to my channel. My name is Bálint Tényi, and in this video, I would like to talk a bit about one of my favorite directors of all time. His name is John Waters. I'm sure you all know, an underground filmmaker who has been making movies ever since the 70s with his little with his style of very groundbreaking and, of course, controversial kind of movies. And in this video, I would like to give some thoughts on the genre of camp, and of course the so-called transgressive art of John Waters. Well, first of all, I'm going to be reflecting on the early films of John Waters. Waters was born in 1946 in Baltimore. Well, that's where he was born, and he took some classes at the New York Film Academy, but he was thrown out of the school because of smoking marijuana. So he just returned to his childhood home, Baltimore, where he started making little movies, short movies with his friends, namely namely with Divine, and his real name is Glenn Millstate. Um, the period of John Waters' his art started when underground filmmakers started emerging from the underground and getting into the mainstream kind of movies in the USA. One of the other examples who is very similar to John Waters, Andy Warhol. The so-called midnight movies and independent film studios gave space to these kind of movies. They were very controversial, very thought-provoking, but they were original, and not just your usual kind of passive entertainment kind of mainstream Hollywood movies. They were talking about themes that were important to them, and they were very provocative, honest. I have to emphasize the word honest. While John Waters' early influences were William Castle, Andy Warhol, and Kenneth Anger. Waters was obsessed with cinema ever since he was a child, so he grew up watching horror movies and B movies, and of course, he grew up watching more intellectual kind of movies like the films of Godard or Tarkovsky or Pasolini. Uh, you know, so in my little video, I would like to give some other notes about the genre called camp. Camp is a kind of genre in the film making scene which uses exaggerations, irony, and exaggerations and irony are very crucial part of John Waters' filmmaking style. He shocked many people in the world. He shocked all the world with his underground movies like Pink Flamingos, Female Trouble, or Polyester. So, just a little note: my favorite movie from him is Polyester, which was made in 1981. So, this was a little introduction of John Waters, of who he is, but I'm sure you guys know him, and I really respect his work, even though I kind of grew out of it now by the age of 28. But as a teenager, I loved his movies. So, I would like to continue this little video of this little commemoration of John Waters by the style of camp and, of course, the so-called transgressive art of John Waters. So, indulge my being a little slow now, but I'm looking for my thesis on this because at college I had the opportunity to give a thesis on before an audience about John Waters. So let me get down to the first main factor of camp. I read many studies on it, and I think that the most important factor of John Waters is shocking. It's really they were really shocking and still shocking to this day. John Waters had a funny note about the New York Film Academy. Quote, I was there for about 5 minutes. I didn't know what I was thinking. I went to one class where where they were keep talking about uh, uh, the silent films of the 1940s. This isn't what I wanted to talk about. I just went to see House of Shame by Olga. That's what I was more into. So the early influences for John Waters were William Castle, Kroger Babb, Kenneth Anger, Andy Warhol, and the brothers. The transgressive style. Nick Zed, a theorist on John Waters, was the first one who used this expression called transgressive. Zed, in the 1960s and 1970s, uh, that's for the time where he created this kind of word for this kind of work of art in the realm of filmmaking. Um, Waters movies were shown not in the regular time of movie screenings, but only in midnight movies. Ironic representation is very important, which also was combined with the ironic use of pop music. And if you guys look a little bit into the surface, under the surface, you can see that all the great big directors like Kenneth Anger, Martin Scorsese, Quentin Tarantino were all copying the first one, Kenneth Anger, and of course John Waters is not an exception as well, because Kenneth Anger was the first one who used the ironic use of pop music, um, combined with the shocking and provocative material. So that's it about the influences of John Waters. So now I'm gonna be talking about camp as a movie style. Camp is a very exaggerated kind of art form, and it is related and combines homosexual elements as well, and of course many irony. It's very extravagant and very provocative, and all the characters in the style of camp and the films of camp are represented as a kind of a man who is also a woman, so it's very feminine. And it's very interesting to note that feminists who hated John Waters in the 1970s, now feminism starts idolizing one of his most important underground movie, Female Trouble. um, there are certain deviances in society, like like sexual deviances, mental deviances, or deviances, or any kind of that is beyond what is average. The other thing from for camp, which is very crucial and important and divine, his childhood friend, was the drag queen. The drag queen is a man who dresses up as a woman, which is a very which is at least merely an easier kind of um, acceptance for the heterosexual people, because it's very unknown for them. So if you indulge my being a little abstract, but for a homosexual, these kind of things, or any kind of any kind of person who has kind of have the sexual deviant or sexual differences, it's normal. But for heterosexual people, it is very shocking and very provoking. Okay, so that was the style of camp. There's another theorist who was who was very into the style of camp and had published, had many publications on the style of camp. Quote: "Laughing and joy instead of tears helps the deviants to accept their place in society." End quote. Camp needs is very serious and very provocative elements, which are mostly abnormal, like sexual deviances, alcohol, drug addiction, or mental illness. And Waters, that's why I think he was a very creative, a very outstanding director. He took these abnormal elements and made them into a comedy, you know. So he distinguished the abnormal from normality, and these very serious themes which are very sad if you think about it, like sexual deviances, alcohol, drug addiction, or mental illness. He made them humorous, you know, and he made the audience laugh at all these abnormal representations of abnormality. So there's an inner tension within all homosexuals or bisexuals or any kind of sexuality that a person has, and by having the normality to be to be a parody, like John Waters in his movies, he made a parody of normality, and that's the inner tension of the outcasts, like a homosexual or a mentally ill person or a drug addict or any kind of abnormality is ceases to be existing. So all this tension that Waters is openly gay to if you guys don't know, and he's very avid supporter of the homosexual movement. So mainly that's the most important part. Um, what is interesting to me that in the 1990s, Waters changed his style of filmmaking, and he sort of got into the mainstream, but he was always to this day he has kept his original style, but the movies he made in the 90s were mainstream movies, and these mainstream movies were provocative too, but um the conclusion of this whole essay of mine is that John Waters, managed to put the abnormality, which is very sad and very sorrowful, like not being accepted for your sexuality or for your differences, or not being accepted for being a mentally ill person, or not being accepted for being or for having suffering like a drug addiction or alcohol addiction or anything like that, is has been transformed by John Waters into society. So normal people, I emphasize the words normal people, uh, uh, accepted these themes by their watching the films of John Waters, Kenneth Anger, Quentin Tarantino, or Martin Scorsese. So John Waters is now a part of the postmodern postmodern science, which deals with camp, and he made. I think his most important achievement is that he made abnormality to be normal, and that's why he is still my favorite. Although I have to say that I rarely watch his films anymore because I kind of grew out from it. But as a child, I really loved his work. So that was my little essay thesis on John Waters and camp. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Have a nice day.